What's up? This is Nick, Commissioner of the Pokemon Battle League, and you are joining me this evening for Pokemon Battle Network while we cover our Week 2 matches and look forward to Week 3. I'm going to get a call into our featured guest this week. We're going to start that call with him, see if he picks up. Let's see if he answers. Are you here with us?
Hello, hello.
Hello, Zache. Welcome to the PBN. Introduce yourself to the fans and the people.
This is Coach Zache, your reigning champion and coach of the Azalea Town Porygon-Zed.
Welcome to the PBN.
Glad to be here.
So we're going to kick this off by reviewing the previous week's matches. So we're going to start right at the top with the match between the Safari Zone Weedles and the Mount Silver Larvitar. So this match was it was a pretty good one. It was, one of our weather teams.
Yeah, one of my favorite matches this week. Because I felt like it could have gone any way from the beginning. Both have proved to be really competent battlers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was interested to see what their game plans were. Especially Cheryl's team, I think, has a very cohesive team identity. She really went all in around the Dracovish strategy and did nicely with that, which is hard to prepare.
Absolutely.
But Isaiah's team has a couple of the techs to deal with it, both in having Zeraora and Dragapult, who are two natural Dracovish counters.
Well, and he also, in his first week roster changes, did pick up Lapras.
And Lapras, yeah.
It was very good.
He had a freeze dry user, he had Heal Bell, he had Tailwind, he had Defog.
Mm-hmm.
He was prepared for everything. Cheryl had 3 or 4 different kinds of speed control, with Thunder Waves from her Miltank and Sticky Webs from her Orbeetle.
Correct.
And Isaiah was prepared with the tech to counter every single one of those, which I found very impressive. It was really a comprehensive preparation on Isaiah's part.
Absolutely. He was very ready, and then at the same time he's done this both weeks so far with his Dragapult, something that naturally outspeeds most things that aren't speed boosted or something. He just saves that until the end, and then it can just come in, pick up the last couple KOs, and it's a clean finish for his team.
The late game Dragapult is potent, and he has the offensive firepower on his team to use that late game Dragapult with a lot of powerful breakers, such as Darmanitan. He was able to use Darmanitan a lot in the mid game to break through some of her more sturdy walls that would have been able to take on Dragapult,
or just chunk them down, do like 40-45%.
It's not very strong on its own, but it's able to clean up. If everything's at 50-60%, it can come in, outspeed, clean up.
Darmanitan set a lot of those up by taking nice big chunks with superpower and flare blitz.
He was able to, just because I'm one to use, if I'm using Darmanitan, I like to use the Choice Scarf set just to guarantee the speed, and he was using Life Orb, which is great on the Sheer Force set, and it let him switch up his move, and he had pretty great coverage, I think, for everything on the team. And then Lapras was, of course, enormous this game. I actually had Lapras written as my MVP for Isaiah's team, just because of its ability to pressure both Dracovish and Pelipper, who are monumental.
Yeah,
to
that
Cheryl's
4
team.
times with freeze dry is definitely
the freeze dry, and then being able to switch in on any water moves, including the Weather Ball tech, which I love.
Yeah, I love seeing that
Pelipper.
come out. That's so nice.
And it discourages Vicious Rend, which makes Dracovish a little less useful. He's still powerful, but not quite as powerful as he can be with Vicious Rend.
Yeah, if he knows he can't just use that big, huge attack for free, he's got to plan for something else, which usually means less damage output, and it's not exactly what he wants.
So yeah, my big takeaway from this one was both teams were really, really geared up to take on the other, and Isaiah just had the tech for this. He was just prepared. He had everything for every situation, and credit to him for that, because if he was missing one bit of that, Cheryl had him out prepared at that point. Like I said, 3 or 4 different speed controls, just a lot of things she could do to get that Dracovish off and going, and he was ready for it.
Absolutely.
Which ended up giving him the win.
And
it was
I was
really
a
really fun match
at the start of the match, because this is 2 weeks in a row now he's done the fake out without going mega with his low punny.
Right. I'm still not totally sure on that. Might just be if there's nothing running static, then I'm not.
It may just
positive.
be a not clicking that mega button.
Right.
This may be the curse of low punny.
Yeah, I don't know. But
still very good match. I think one of the best ones of the week. And I see both of them, especially Isaiah has now kept that top spot in the league. He is still number 1 he's tied for record, but has the better differential by I think 4 KOs. Yes. So he is definitely holding that top spot very strongly. All right.
Sure. He's playing really well this season. He took some time in the off season when he joined in, but he proved himself to be a really solid competitor once he got the speed of draft battles, which it is a whole different format to what you're used to. And Isaiah's really just proved himself to be an incredibly solid battler in the league, and always plans well, and he really does come up with some great tech. I think he just has a lot of great plays, and Cheryl has been a top tier threat since day one.
Oh yeah,
so
she's always another one that you have to watch out for. She may not pull the craziest sets most times. I would not be surprised to see
these two in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Playoffs, if not at least one of them in the finals.
Sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think they're both huge threats in their division.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to our next match with the other weather team.
Other supposed weather team.
Supposed,
Dan
correct.
Didn't bring Drizzle on his polygon.
Apparently that was a mistake.
It
was. We do have the big suicide lead from the Victinis with the Victini, which he has run before against Dan in the past.
That has come to become Zache's calling card against weather teams, because he'll self-admit that weather teams are his downfall. He hates weather teams. And so for this one, for almost every weather team, you can almost expect him, if he's leading Victini, that's going to be a final gambit, suicide lead.
But and especially it's a choice scarf. I'm pretty sure he does full speed, full HP, but there was the choice scarfed Tapu Koko, which prevented him. Yeah. Yes,
because he was able to switch into Celebi, which has the same HP as Victini, and
since it's weakened, it is not the KO. But then also something that when I did some practice battles with Zache beforehand, I also ran some offensive Ferrothorns, which is similar to what Dan ran.
What Dan ran. I thought that was a very interesting use of Ferrothorn, and it was good because normally Breloom will set up all over Ferrothorn.
Yeah, especially that set was especially disgusting. A sub-seed, toxic recover, and focus punch. Yeah.
Although this week, Mach Punch was the thing I thought that was the one big game changer I think would have helped, is when Kyurem started to set up, it doesn't take the Mach Punch from Breloom very well.
Yeah.
Especially at the percentage it was at. It was about half health when it began to set up. So if Breloom was running the Mach Punch, it would have been able to clean that up.
Come in and just finish it off with that 90 base power.
Zache also had a little misfortune. I think I remember Kyurem getting 2 critical hits with its Icicle Spears.
Correct.
Which may or may not have come into play. I don't think against Poltegeist it would have come into play, but I think an earlier one did come into play.
Against it's showing right now the Cradily.
Yeah. I think that
if that one had not critted and only hit 3 times, I believe it would have survived. Possibly, and probably would have killed with that ancient power.
I think possibly. Like I said, I don't want to credit it to he won off of a critical hit.
Oh no.
But it is unfortunate when you see those critical hits happen a couple times in a row. But yeah, this one I think it was just a lot of unexpectedness, which I've come to expect from Dan.
Expect the unexpected, of course,
to give a cliched phrase. But I think the aerial ace on Ferrothorn was big. That really, it stopped Breloom from getting any footing, and otherwise a sub Breloom could have had a really
absolutely
fantastic field day setting up on the rest of this team.
Absolutely, because nothing else. I mean, Kyurem, if it was set up, could possibly, it would break the sub with one Icicle Spear and maybe go on to 2-hit KO it. If it got 3 hits, if it were lucky.
It would need 3 or 4 hits, yeah.
So it was definitely, but then that's also assuming that this Breloom isn't setting up that sub and immediately focus punching, which will obliterate that Kyurem if it does not kill him with Icicle Spear.
I thought the Dragon Dance tech on Kyurem was also nice because it's really run more as a special mon, but it does have a decent, especially with the addition of Icicle Spear, which I think is new for it.
Icicle Spear and Dragon Dance are both new things in Generation 8 for it.
Yeah, and it gives it a pretty viable physical move pool and makes it a lot more of a two-way threat than it was in the past.
Well, also that speed boost is invaluable, and something that in the past in the league we've seen it is usually a choice scarf user because
it's just so middle.
It can throw down big attacks, but it's 95 speed,
something like that.
It underspeeds just enough things that can take it out before it gets a chance to really do any big damage. So that's why it usually would run that scarf to kind of get ahead of the pack, but
exactly
now it can boost itself and
offensive versatility. It could even still run a special set off of Dragon Dance.
Absolutely.
It's a really potent offensive threat now.
Absolutely. So that's something that it'll be interesting to see what Dan does with it, because it definitely has potential to be a very big threat in a lot of different matchups. But then he didn't even have his Rain Dance. Or didn't even have his Drizzle.
Hilarious to me. Everyone double check your abilities before you start the
especially
game.
Especially if you have a weather team and you'd like to use that weather.
Especially if your team is dependent on rain, make sure that you have the Drizzle.
But he did fare just fine without it, so he has shown that he does have options other than just a rain team. So we'll give Dan a little bit of credit. Just a tiny bit of credit.
As much as we hate to say it.
He can use his brain outside of rain teams.
But Dan is playing well this season, too.
He is.
Which, it's good. He's playing with a similar team than he's used to playing.
Yes.
But he's also 2-0 right now, if I believe. Or no, he's
1-1.
He's 1-1, but he's third place with differential.
Yeah, he's doing well. I think he's at a +3 differential.
Right.
So he's still doing work.
And Zache, I won't be surprised to see Zache bounce back.
I think he's just got to make some moves on his team and get more comfortable with it, get everything the way he wants it to play the style that he likes to play.
Sure. He and I have talked a little bit about team stuff, and he's not super happy with how he drafted, but I think he's got a lot of good pieces, and he's got a lot of the skill and probably the most knowledge, because he always makes fun of me for not knowing things.
Fairy resist fairy, right?
Not anymore, but he's got all the mental capabilities to bounce back from a rougher start, and it's a long season.
Oh yeah,
0-2. He could end up being 11 weeks for all we care.
Absolutely, yeah. He's still got time to bounce back. All right, and our next match, moving on to your match this past week against Chris.
Against Chris,
that was another pretty good match. It was kind of a slow one, kind of just. It seemed like both of you were kind of just feeling out the other team, seeing what they had to deal with each other.
So my team is never going to play fast.
Yeah.
That's
no, really?
I'll already tell you that right now. Nothing on my team, my game plan is never to play fast. And I think that it's an experiment, I guess, I'm trying for Draft League this season, where so much is built on unpredictability that if you can play slow and play around it and play consistently, I think you can overcome a lot of unpredictability with that. So it's just a thesis I'm testing out, I guess.
Like a scientist. You're being a man of science
I'm
here.
I'm a man of science. But my game plan for this going into it, I guess I can give you this from a real one-sided perspective. Hawlucha ripped through my team if you got a chance.
Yeah, and
I didn't have a great answer for Rotom Heat as well. So my team was built. I had, I think, 3 or 4 answers for Hawlucha on my team. My Milotic was using a Flame Orb, so it was physically defensive with Haze and could 2-hit KO with Scald. My Como O was running Max Defense and Iron Defense.
Oh, there you go, for those big body presses.
Body press, and then also Flamethrower just to catch Scizor. But it was there so it could absorb a hit if needed be. My Bronzong was also running Max Defense and then a Colbur Berry to eat a Throat Chop.
There you
go. And Psychic, which would one-hit KO after a close combat.
Oh, there you go. But
and
also,
then-
it had that. It was an offensive one, which a lot of people don't
It was.
expect.
I
So
was
body press,
running-
heavy slam, psychic, very good.
I was running 3 attack Bronzong,
There you go.
just because I had so much defensive support outside my team,
Mhm.
and Bronzong is very comfortably able to switch in on Clefable. I was running Heat Proof because he didn't have any great Earthquake users, which
Gotcha.
is partially based in planning on my team because I have Tapu Bulu. You
Mhm.
don't want to risk bringing Earthquake because I might just cut all your damage in half.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I was actually running the Heat Proof Bronzong
There
so
you
I could
go.
reliably switch into Clefable at
Just in
all
case
turns.
it's Flamethrower or Fire Blast, since
Sure.
that's
Yeah,
common when you're
exactly.
running an offensive Clefable.
Yeah, and I knew I would be able to 2 or 3 hit KO with Heavy Slam, even with Wish,
Mhm.
especially if he was running Unaware, which he was. So I was able to chip it down
Yeah.
with Toxic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was huge this match. I think 8 total statuses thrown up by your team, 2
lot
Scald
of
Burns and
statuses.
6 Toxic Poisons.
Yeah, it got to a point where I saw he revealed Aromatherapy on his team, which I knew
Mhm.
he would probably carry in case I tried to burn Hawlucha.
Which you did.
But
And
I
then he
did,
cured it.
yeah. But you only get 8 Aromatherapies, and I think I had 3 different Pokemon running Toxic. So I was very prepared to make him use every single one of those Aromatherapies.
Oh, absolutely. And he
yeah,
used, I think, 3 or 4 of them? 3? I think it was 3.
Yeah.
And Clefable got a lot more stats this week with some more tank hits,
Yeah.
some status cures, a whole lot of status cures. But yeah, that was kind of what it seemed to be for most of the match. For at least I think it was like 60% of it was kind of just you trying to figure out which way you were going to get rid of that Clefable, and eventually you were able to make it work, and then it kind of just fell apart on his side.
I knew the Clefable would come down. My big concern was the Hawlucha.
Mm-hmm.
And once I was able to get rid of Hawlucha, I felt a lot more comfortable just wearing down the rest of his team, because Hawlucha, has the unique ability to absolutely destroy teams if it gets one single chance to set up.
Absolutely, because there's no priority that's super effective against it, I believe.
Oh, there is.
Oh,
and I have
Icicle
it on
Shard.
my team. I have Comfy with Draining Kiss.
Right.
I did have that in the back, but
just in case you absolutely needed to bring it up.
Yeah, I didn't have to use it, which was nice.
So I forgot about, well, it's technically not using an attack that has priority, but its ability does give it priority on that Draining Kiss,
right,
which is extremely effective in
So I did.
those
I
cases.
did have that. And I want to make an interesting point about my match, because I was thinking how so far Mega Venusaur hasn't come out for me that much.
Not really.
But this match actually, my Mega Venusaur was really important, because a lot of his team is very weak to Mega Venusaur and doesn't handle it well, so he could just not bring them. Like Blastoise cannot do anything to Mega Venusaur. Even after a Shell Smash, it does
yeah, I mean,
under
Ice Beam's
50% with
the
Ice
best
Beam
it's gonna do
to a no EV'd Mega Venusaur.
Yeah, I believe it.
And Gastrodon can't come in, and a lot of his team can't function very well. So the sheer fact that I had Mega Venusaur on my roster kind of determined what his roster would be, which let me build around that.
It was the threat of Venusaur, Mega Venusaur, that it kind of forces people to build their team around it, which then you can use to your advantage
to counter pick around them as well. So that was important, and it won't show up on the MVP final total, which I'm trying to gun for an MVP, and I think I'm a little behind right now, but again, 2 weeks into the season, we've got time.
And Mega Venusaur has 2 seasons ago, season 2, it was the season MVP, and then last season it was in contention for MVP. So it can definitely be a huge threat when it is given the legs to run. It will take off and carry it, like drag a team kicking and streaming behind it if it needs to.
We'll see how it does. I think my team is going to be a lot more. It's not really an MVP built team. It's more of a team identity, grit and grind kind of team, but we'll see how it works out.
You got to break through the Great Wall. All right, stepping up to our next battle, it is the Ampharos versus the Sneasels. This was a match that was another one of our first match, I think, this season that really heavily featured some baton passing. I think we had something week 1, but it wasn't really too substantial. But this one actually had some.
The game plan on Raul's side was based entirely around the baton pass,
passing off those nasty plots.
Sure, which Evan did catch early, but then later on it got a chance to set up, which then was surprising to me that Colossal absolutely ate.
+2 Muse in terrain. It was a 3-hit KO.
That was really surprising to me.
That is something that, especially, this was a Pokemon when we were deciding tiers. I looked at it, I'm like, this Pokemon's garbage. It's not going to do anything. I don't know why anybody would use it. And there were a few people in the league who were like, you're wrong, first of all. And I think it should be ranked higher than people are putting it. And one of them was Evan, who was kind of championing for Colossal, because we see...
Evan also, I would like to say, he is championing it for being better. Evan also just really likes it aesthetically. I know that because he and I are in total agreement on that issue. I think Colossal is one of the best Pokemon in Gen 8 from a design standpoint. So head. I know that he loves it regardless, but I do remember him being a bit of a champion for Colossal, and now he's putting his money where his mouth is, which I admire.
Yeah, absolutely. It did its work. I know I saw a WBE match where it was a similar situation where if you can get that thing in a good situation, especially defensively, it can take on a whole lot of stuff. And
and that's all
you can't just
really
break through it
to do. It just had to come in and kind of wear out terrain and chip Mew down, especially because he had, again, like Isaiah's Dragapult, he had Aegislash in the back, ready to come in and clean up with Shadow Sneak at the very end.
Another thing this match that we did see was the return of Stone Miss. I believe Garchomp missed 3 or 4 of them.
Right, and they weren't. I don't think they were big game breakers.
I mean, it would have just taken a big. Well, the first one would have taken a big chunk out of Rotom Wash.
Yeah.
But then everything after that, it wasn't doing anything anyway. As we see, it actually hits the Rotom Wash once and does, I think, 11%.
11%.
So yeah, it wasn't going to do anything anyway.
And it could have, if they had all hit, chipped it down enough for Cinderace, who came in later on the Rotom and got a good high jump kick.
Yeah, that did at least like 40%.
Still did, I think it did less than 40.
Oh, okay.
So I think it looked like Evan was running a bulky Rotom build specifically to counter that Cinderace.
Absolutely.
And it did work. I actually have that written on my note sheet that the Rotom bulk cannot be understated.
Yeah, no, Rotom Wash has always been a premier defensive Pokemon because it's got utility, and then it also, when it needs to, can throw out those big Hydro Pumps. It can Volt Switch for some good damage and that nice pivot. It's a solid Pokemon. And it's proving it yet again that it's very good at what it does. And it also picked up, I believe, 3 KOs for him.
It did. I think so. And it was played well, and it played well around Raul's team. The interesting tech that I saw from Raul was on his Leopard. He was running Thunderwave and Yawn. And a couple times would Yawn something turn 1 and then Thunderwave the second turn, completely negating the chance to put them to sleep. So my assumption was he was just running Yawn for forcing switches.
Yeah, just kind of you force things to either have to switch or fall asleep.
But I thought it was interesting that he was running dual status on his Prankstermon, and then ended up, once he got taunted, he just stayed in to struggle
itself to this,
which I thought was kind of funny. But Raul this battle had a rough start to it, and it looked to me like Evan was just going to take off and run it, and Raul brought it pretty close down to the wire at the end.
6-4 at the end.
Yeah, and it was one of those, again, I think a little extra chip from Garchomp probably it could have. Cinderace catches Aegislash well.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure it one-hit KOs Aegislash.
Well, and also it can Sucker Punch it if it tries to attack. It can Pyro Ball it for super effective damage. Even if it is in defense form, it's probably still going to take some decent damage from that, if not KO.
Right. He had himself in good positioning. I think just starting the battle off stronger to get himself to not have to fight for that positioning rather and just have the momentum from the beginning would have benefited him more. And he let himself get caught in a couple of the taunts from Tornadus.
Yeah, that was an issue for him early on.
It took him a couple turns to get into his game plan, but he figured it out and he played well at the end. So I think just getting there quicker with the same kind of team idea. I think the team idea is right, and I think the construct and concept is right. It's just getting into it faster. Properly. Yeah.
But otherwise, I see Raul. He's not doing too well standings wise right now, but I think he's kind of settling into his team, and I think he could have a better mid to late season.
He's had a very difficult strength of schedule for the first 2 matches of the season as well. So
I expect some good things from him.
Yeah, I think Raul. I'm saying this with everyone. I'm like, oh yeah, everyone can season around, but I think we can all just go 500. We all beat each other once, and then we're all happy.
There we go. Everybody with a flat, even record at the end. That's
what people want to see.
Yeah. All right, and moving on to our last match, which was the feature match for the week between the Mahogany Town Dracovish and the Daycare Center Togepi. This was the ugly match. The match where Baton Pass truly did rear its ugly head and almost caused utter destruction.
I was playing on the battle spot.
Yeah.
Where you see a lot of defensive Baton Pass between Vaporeon and... Well, Jirachi's not legal on battle spot, but
in this it is.
Yeah.
And it was disgusting.
This is another one where the positioning, it's incredible to me that it worked out to be as close as it was, which is a credence to Lauren's prediction and battling ability, her ability to come back from what it seemed like a 6-0 at one point.
Oh, absolutely. I think she was
able to bring it to a 6-4.
Yeah, when Jirachi was at ×4 defense, ×3 special defense, and ×2 special attack, I think it was. That really kind of looked like it was the death knell. Like there was almost nothing that she could do at that point, but she was able to keep the pressure on so that he couldn't just keep cycling between the Vaporeon and the Jirachi and passing those wishes, and was eventually able to get rid of those huge stat buffs and then make excellent predictions with Swampert to get 3 more KOs before the battle finally ended.
Yeah, it was I thought an impressive battle on her part. And for her credit, she's also new to Pokemon and hasn't spent the first year of her life playing DS, battling weird Baton Pass strategies and trying to figure out how to get around them. She actually told me afterwards, she's like, I didn't even know that was something we were allowed to do. So
yeah, it definitely looked like she wasn't ready or prepared for the Baton Pass, which most people won't be. Unless you've specifically come up against it or have played it before, it's not usually something you're going to be ready for in most cases.
It's something I almost never specifically prep for Baton Pass. That's almost never a game plan I even think about in my head, just because I'm not used to it. I do forget it is legal in our format right now.
Yes.
And I'm not used to it being legal, and it's difficult to test is the one, because playing Anything Goes ladder is like, oh yes, I would love to face 7 Mega Rayquazas.
Yeah, that's so the one of the issues.
Test your draft team with an AG in AG.
It's kind of ugly up there in Anything Goes.
Yeah, it's
the 6 Cloister teams are really tough to get through.
6 Cloister is the best team, and you know it. But yeah, something like Roar on Arcanine would have helped, or even the idea, if now in the future, this is warning for Greg, when we're predicting your Baton Pass cheese, I'm just going to put a Jetpack on or red card on some of my Pokemon.
And there you go. It's all that setup you do. You come in, hit them, and bye-bye. You're gone.
Hit you with the trick eject button quick attack combo. And
there you go. That's the big brain plays. But also, even to his credit, also on his side, he did have that Assault Vest Hitmonchan. So he wasn't just there for the Baton Pass.
It was able to eat the Hydro Vortex.
In the rain.
Yeah.
Ate it up pretty well.
Had it not been able to, I think Manaphy could have cleaned up from there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because it had negated the Toxic Spike, and it was faster than his team at that point.
That was also something that was very nice tech on the side of the Togepis with that Rain Dance to get rid of those status with hydration, which was very cool.
because her team doesn't have a ton of hazard removal.
Mm-hmm.
For Toxic Spikes, really, it's just a couple of defog users, and Nihilego can pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
So the smart hydration rain dance really allowed her to bring Manaphy in a couple of times, or
and not really have
a
to
couple of
worry about
times,
those,
and not worry about that.
Toxic Spike.
The toxic, yeah. And also gives her the damage boost and all that. But...
Absolutely, yeah. And she seems to be doing well with Manaphy. It's a Pokemon that, if you know how to use it, it can be extremely powerful, but you have to make sure you can get it to that point where it can actually do some work.
Right.
Otherwise,
it does need its special attack is a little underwhelming. It's got those base 100s across the board, so it is a little underwhelming without the extra boost. A lot of mock battles we ran, it really was missing the tail glow, because this was a 3-attack rain dance Manaphy. So it was missing tail glow, which would have allowed it to break through things like Jirachi and Vaporeon.
Yeah, or if not completely break through them, at least take bigger chunks than it was initially able to do.
Right.
But yeah, that was a tough match to watch, but I think Lauren's going to learn some valuable lessons from it and be more prepared in the future for whatever she may come up against. Because she's, as a new coach in the league, I think she's been doing a very good job adjusting to how it all works.
Yes, she's not just a new coach in the league, but new to the game itself.
In general,
she started playing in around December.
Yeah,
so she's learning the game
very
quick,
well.
And she's learning the game well.
Absolutely, yeah. I have high hopes for her as well. You know, just as we said with everyone else, she can have a good rest of the season. She is 1-1, but I can definitely see her going far.
She beat me last season,
last week. She did.
So,
but yeah, it's definitely going to be good to see all the teams moving forward.
It's a very competitive league right now. We don't see a lot of dead weight from any of the coaches. I think everyone's playing at a really high level, which makes the losses that much more devastating, but it's exciting to watch. The matches are all very fun to watch.
So we will move on from that to looking forward to next week. We did have some roster changes that came out this past
some
week.
of these were really good, and there's some I'm actually a little confused on.
Yeah. So first of all, we did have from the Saffron City Sneasels, they made 2 free agent changes. One is dropping Uxie and picking up Slowbro in Tier 3, which is taking one bulky Pokemon for another bulky Pokemon. Especially they
function very similarly, but now Slowbro has access to Teleport and also has Regenerator.
I was just about to say that new addition in Generation 8 with Teleport actually being a pivot move now.
Right.
A very slow Regenerator Teleport is going to be invaluable for the Sneasels. And then their next move was dropping Dubwool in Tier 4 to pick up Medicham.
I think that one's interesting too.
Dropping some defense and baton pass capability for some.
I like Medicham a lot.
It's not the Mega, which a lot of people seem to love very much, but don't use that often.
I was close.
Yeah,
but no, and it's a good Tier 4, and it's got a pretty decent speed tier. It's not super fast, but it's not slow.
Well, it's got priority too.
Yeah, and it's got a massive attack stat with its pure power ability. So it just gives him a little more offensive flexibility outside of his top Mons, which Aegislash is a very offensive Mon, but even Grimmsnarl has to be set up right. A couple of them just need a decent amount of setup, and Medicham doesn't need setup.
Yeah, it can just go right off the bat. It doesn't
especially
need
as a Tier 4, Medicham is good for probably a kill a game. It comes in, gets a kill, dies, you're good.
Or just kind of chunk things. Another Pokemon that can just do that. It can kind of just come in. If it's a bad matchup for whatever's already in, it can just throw out a big attack, and that thing kind of just has to run away or take a big ol' hit.
Yeah, it gives Evan a little more offensive flexibility without sacrificing a lot. And Dubwool is fun for Cotton Guard strategies and such, but it's just kind of a niche,
kind of neutral Pokemon. It's not really going to take huge chunks out of teams most of the time.
Yeah, I think these are both good moves. Makes sense to me.
All right, and then moving on, we have the Victory Road Victinis made a roster change and switched their Z captain. So first of all, I really liked this change. They dropped Breloom and picked up Conkeldurr. So
Yeah,
one
I
fighting
like
for
this.
another fighting, but I definitely see Conkeldurr having big advantages because it doesn't have that 4 times grass weakness, and it's
Conk
known
is probably
for being
the
pretty
best fighting type in the tier.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially in the format.
Yeah.
Conkeldurr is. I'm honestly surprised it was undrafted at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good.
I can run tons of sets too. You can run
really
Guts Flame Orb, you can run Iron Fist, you can run Assault Vest on it, you can run Priority or no Priority.
Well, but better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got a whole lot of different sets it can run, and all of them are very powerful and very scary to come up against.
Yeah, it's a very powerful substitute for how Zache was planning on running Breloom anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Conk was just that's a no-brainer move to me.
Mm-hmm. It'll be a very good addition to his team.
The position, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then he also switched his Z captain from Whimsicott to Victini, and that gave his Whimsicott a normal Z stone for attacking moves. So Victini, I can definitely see why he would make it a captain. It's got a bit more versatility, and we'll see.
Yeah, it just kind of opens up his options for what he can do. You can't run the famous Z Celebrate.
No Z Celebrate, thankfully.
But it does learn a good amount of support moves. It can run Z Sunny Day, and it still gives him the ability to run Z Sunny Day and V Create, or just have a Z V Create, and it just gives him that much more offensive flexibility around an already offensively flexible Pokemon in Victini.
And he loves his Victini. It's his mascot, and it's his baby boy. So
Whimsicott just can't do. It's a great support utility mon, but it just can't do as much with the burden of the Z Stone, and it doesn't benefit that much, even with its utility moves. It doesn't benefit as much from being able to do that as much as something with Victini, which can use it to set up and start attacking right away.
Yeah, it has more offensive utility, which I think is kind of what Zache was struggling with, is figuring out where his true offense was. Since the first week we saw, it was just a slog of defense, and he made a misplay that led to losing one of his big offensive threats. So it kind of left him playing on the back burner, which wasn't really where he was wanting to be.
This gives him more of an offensive option, just a really powerful ability to set up and sweep in one fell move.
Absolutely. All right, moving on, the Daycare Center Togepis drop Aerodactyl for Cofagrigus, a Pokemon that we have definitely seen a lot in the past.
Yeah, I think this was a great move. So Aerodactyl was really redundant with how Lauren has been playing Carbink. I would like to say the PBL KO leader of Carbink's Carbink.
I think this has had the most use in 2 weeks that Carbink has had in the entire league's existence.
Right.
So
and she runs it as an oddly offensive suicide lead, which is usually what Aerodactyl runs, but her Carbink is running it better.
Yeah.
So there was no reason for Aerodactyl, and she needed more physical defense on her team. She needed a fighting resist on her team. She needed a little bit of utility on her team. And
Cofagrigus fits that very well.
He does all of that. He does it great.
And it has been a menace in the past for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
If you can't deal with that mummy, and you can't deal with just that bulk of it, if you can't break through it, it can kind of just keep cycling through, and if you can't break it, it's kind of just going to stop your team dead before it lets you do anything.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it suffers from, it's a tier 4, so it's not a perfect one. It suffers from, it doesn't have reliable recovery outside of Pain Split, and it isn't offensively a powerhouse, but her team
Trick Room Nasty Plot. It can, man. Watch out for it.
It can.
We've seen that in the past. I think that was last season. I think we did have it do that once or twice.
Her team doesn't need offense.
No, she's got not
Cortana,
at all.
She's got Manaphy.
She's got Nihilego.
She runs usually a pretty offensive Gudra as a nice pivot with coverage moves. She loves coverage moves. And Cofagrigus just gives her that ability to switch in and slow things down a little bit.
Kind of keep it in under her control.
It'll give her a nice momentum control and a great fighting resist for anything that could go up against Kartana. She's got a great switch in for it now.
Yeah, because previously all she had was
Nihilego. She had Slurpuff was her fighting resist.
Yeah, and now this is
and Carbink is a neutral. It's just got high defenses, so this is a fighting immunity. And it's also got access to Toxic Spikes and Will-O-Wisp and a couple
can
different
be
statuses.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely something to be feared, and has shown in the past that it is something that you gotta be ready for.
I think it's one of the best Pokemon in its tier. I think she was smart. I think it fits well on her team. I think it was a good pickup.
Absolutely. All right, and our last team that made some roster changes this week was the Safari Zone Weedles. Had 2 changes. These ones we're talking about are kind of divisive. Dropping Miltank for Alchemy, first of all. What's your thoughts on that?
I was surprised, especially after watching Cheryl's battles, because I thought Miltank was one of her most important Pokemon this last battle.
Absolutely. A lot of status, sets up Stealth Rocks, takes hits, can heal itself.
I have it written on a sheet of paper. I was like, Miltank was huge this battle. Like Miltank and Lapras, I said, were the 2 biggest Pokemon to play. And I think it's just such a great Pokemon that I was surprised to see it dropped for Alcremie. But looking at her team, it fills a little bit of a niche. It's still got that special defensive bulk,
and it can recover, correct?
It can recover.
So it still has healing. It has that special defense.
Yeah, it's just it'll function similarly to Miltank, but I don't see it with as much utility as Miltank, but it does have a little more offensive presence with Calm Mind capabilities. So I'm interested to see how she plays it. It does give her team didn't have a fairy type before. That's important too. So it gives her a fairy type.
Yeah, definitely something it's a very coveted type to have on a team.
Yeah, and it's a nice bulky fairy. So it makes sense, but I really liked Miltank on her team, so I was surprised to see Miltank go.
Especially she seemed to use it pretty well and pretty often. Yeah. So it's a kind of interesting change, but we've talked about Cheryl being a threat to be watched for, so I believe that she did this for a good reason, and she's got a solid reason to do it.
I trust in Cheryl. I'm just confused by the move myself, but
it's all up to her.
Cheryl is always a powerful battler. And then the last one was
Malamar for Rotom Frost. So those
this coveted
one I think Rotoms
is more of a lateral move. It doesn't confuse me as much. I think Rotom Frost is interesting. I think it's one kind of like Metacham where it provides offensive potency right off the bat, able to fire off blizzards and thunderbolts, whereas Malamar does need some turns to set up.
Well, it's also a Rotom, so you have your Volt Switches, you have your Defogs, you have your Will-O-Wisps, just things that every Rotom can do, and it's very valuable to have that. Usually you go for a higher tier one with Mo or Frost, or Mo or Heat or Wash, but it is still a Rotom. You can still do that.
It gives a nice ice resist for any freeze dries that come up that Miltank would have supplied. And now that isn't there. So it does kind of counteract that loss in Miltank.
Just a bit.
And just kind of help things out. I think that'll be interesting. Tier 5 changes too. You can never count on them to be big, huge game changers. So I think just adding a little bit of what was missing from the team
can definitely help.
Perhaps in pivoting, in lightning coverage, in ice coverage, in defog. There's just a lot that it can do. I actually like Rotom Frost a decent amount, but I'm biased towards ice types. So
you are.
I think that's a nice move. Malamar is really fun. I think Malamar is really cool.
He's kind of weird.
A predictable tier 5 isn't quite what you want if it relies on that set.
Absolutely. All right, and then we're going to take a quick look at our current standings. So at the top, we do have the Mount Silver Larvatars still sitting up there with their +7 differential, so significantly ahead of the pack. So second place, we have the Dracovish with a +3 differential. So both teams are undefeated so far, but the Larvatars are kind of running away with it at the start of the season. They're definitely putting a target on their back, making themselves highly sought after to be beat.
But they're playing at a level where I don't think the target matters that much.
Yeah. Definitely playing very strong.
It doesn't matter how big the target is when you're consistently playing very thorough, very good games.
Mm-hmm.
I think that number one spot is really well earned.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think I'm absolutely gunning with that target on the back. Yeah. I'm absolutely determined to take Azalea down.
Yeah.
But I think that's not the way he's been playing and the way he closed out last season. I don't think that's a fluke of the early season.
Oh no, not at all. He's definitely earned that spot very well.
I think he's poised to stay somewhere near that. I don't think that will be a volatile spot for Azalea.
Mm-hmm. And then we've got a big middle of the pack from 3rd to 8th.
The rest of us at 1-1.
Yeah. And all pretty tight differentials too. Only range -1 to +3. So at that 1-1, we only have one team with a negative differential, and it's only one. So it's still pretty close there.
Yeah, I can't have much of a comment on this because that's one play this way, one play that way, and those numbers could be completely different.
Yeah, so. I mean, next week, one of these teams could just pop off and get a 6-1 and shoot straight up into second or third place with a really strong differential. So it's the middle of the pack. It's always this usually kind of shakes out in the start of the season. We have a lot of like tied matches, so we do have two people tied with the same record, same differential at 6th place. So I'm sure that'll start to break up as we hit week 3 and week 4.
Yeah,
and then mid-season is usually where we've got some real front runners and teams that are starting to pick up steam or lose steam.
Yep.
And then unfortunately at the bottom we do have those two 0-2s, the Ampharos and the Victini. It seems like both of them are off to a bit of a slow start, but as we talked about earlier,
it's early.
Yeah, it could just be settling into your team, getting used to a different play style, getting used to a team that maybe you didn't necessarily want to draft, making a few changes to bring the team back to where you really want it to be.
Right, and they've got the experience and the pedigree behind them, where again, I don't see that as being a spot for them to linger too long. Like I said, this season, I mean, someone's going to have to end up with a bad record, but
as always,
everyone is playing at a level that I don't think the PBL has really seen before. I think we're at a new breadth of. It's a smaller league for sure, but we're at a new breadth of competition. Absolutely. Everyone's playing well, so even when people finish lower in the standings, they're still battling well. It's just hard. It's getting more competitive. We're adding more people. We're adding more knowledge. We're working harder towards building a strong league, and we're succeeding in that.
Absolutely.
So it's making it tough.
All right, well, let's look to our first match of next week, the Ampharos versus the Weedles. So, Cheryl versus Raul. We've got two teams. Let's bring up the draft board again. So, Raul, we know he's got some decent speed, and he's going up against a rain team. He doesn't really have sticky webs, I don't believe. Nope.
No, but I was looking into this and I was kind of crunching what he has. So like I said, Cheryl's team has one of the strongest team identities in being that Dragovich team. But there's also a lot of other offensive viability outside of that with Scizor and Excadrill in the sand, and Nidoking and Beedrill also provide a lot of power or a lot of speed for things. But Raul, if he plays it smart, has great counters in all of those. The Weedles have a lot of really immense physical power, but Raul has Corsola and Gourgeist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both excellent physical walls.
Yeah, and they can take neutral or resisted hits from all 4 of those top physical attackers.
Right.
Like they have to run a coverage move. None of them are hitting stab super effective damage against those 2 Pokemon.
He has things like Prankster Leopard, which can come in and taunt quick or Thunder Wave or just have speed. And he's got a team well equipped for dealing with this juggernaut team that Cheryl is running.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And then he also still has that Ditto. So if
he does,
worst case scenario.
Ditto. So worst case scenario, there's always Ditto to be afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this will be good.
As long as there's no fumbles, I think this will be a very solid match.
I think if he plays his counters well and doesn't let himself get caught off guard in momentum switches or anything, I think Raul will have a really good fighting chance in this game.
Absolutely.
He's got the team to make it work.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on, we have the Weather Institute Polytoads versus the Mahogany Town Dracovish. Weather again.
So this one just makes me laugh because Dan and Greg are like the
bitter enemies.
The clown. Well, I was going to call them both the clown princes of heat sets. I don't think we're going to see a standard set on a single Pokemon run in this match. No. I don't even have valid analysis that's good for this match because I don't know what the hell I'm going to see from either of them.
Yeah. They're not going to run what you expect.
They have a tendency to run things contrary to how you think they're going to be run.
Mm-hmm.
So I could tell you Greg's team does this, and this well, and Dan can counter it with this, but who the hell knows if they're going to use that or use something like Choice Scarf Ferrothorn, because I don't know. So this will be interesting to see the two mega minds of the heat set world combat with each other and see just what they can come up with.
Well, and both teams have some mons that they haven't really brought yet. So you've got like the Blaziken, you've got Smogonbird, you've got the Tangela, you've got Articuno. With both of them have kind of you kind of think, why do you have this Pokemon? But they seem to be hard stuck on keeping them, so I imagine they have some plans for them.
I will say this, not to try to give too much away to one opponent or another, but Greg's team I know did have struggles against Manaphy, and Mega Swampert is just harder to kill Manaphy. So if we're trying heat sets, I'm just gonna throw that one out there. Mega Swampert might bring Drizzle, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see this match. It's going to be a weird one.
It'll be a weird one. Either that, or they'll really just subvert all of our expectations and play the most straightforward match we've ever seen in our lives.
Who knows? We will see whenever they decide to plan that out this week. It'll definitely be a match to keep an eye on.
It will be something.
All right, and then our next match. This is between some friends. We've got the Mount Silver Larvatars versus the Victory Road Victinis. Some Isaiah and Zache friends in real life. We'll see how they decide to fight each other.
I would love for this one, for the sake of Zache being my respected rival and me wanting to take the top spot from Isaiah, I would love for this to be a Zache redemption match.
Oh, yeah.
But Darmanitan makes that really hard.
Mm-hmm.
His team, not many teams have great Darmanitan switch-ins. Actually, I think Isaiah has one of the best Darmanitan switch-ins in Hippowdon.
Yeah, absolutely.
But not a lot of teams have Darmanitan switch-ins. Zache's team is built kind of around Corviknight, which
is not.
Isaiah has a lot of answers for Corviknight.
Mm-hmm. I see the agent as a big cover for that, but he doesn't want it to be the only check for it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. This is matchup wise. This one is looking strong in Isaiah's favor.
Mm-hmm.
But I always trust in Zache to not give in to matchup being the end all of everything. And Isaiah's team, I don't think has a lot outside of Darmanitan. It doesn't have a lot of the breaker power necessary to get through things like Mega Audino, or even Corviknight if he can get around certain sets. Like he'll have to be running Zeraora will be tough. Zeraora is tough for Corviknight, but even a physically defensive Corviknight walls Zeraora pretty well.
And if he starts bulking up too, if he gets a chance to get that going,
right,
you're gonna have a hard time breaking through it unless you're like banded.
So Zache has bulky options, but I think Darmanitan is gonna be rough.
Yeah, he's gonna have to figure out how to deal with that.
Darmanitan's rough for a lot of people. So,
but no, he's definitely got some tech there. He can he also has some things on his team if you slip up and let them set up. So if
Right.
if Haxorus can get a Dragon Dance, if he can get that Shell
And
Smash off with
he's
Poltegeist, if he can
he's
do a
very
Z Sunny
good
Day,
at recognizing and taking advantage of those situations.
mm-hmm. So it'll definitely, this will be a good match to watch. We'll just have to see if the big threats can be handled, and then if each team can kind of come back with their own power in the back to make sure that they can clean it up once they've dealt with the big threats on the opposing team.
Yeah, I think it'll be an exciting one, and I'm hoping even if Zache doesn't win and give me that edge in the
standings,
in the standings, he at least gives me some differential edge here.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
I'm rooting for you.
There you go. We see who your favorite is in this one.
My favorite is me.
All right, moving on to the next match, we have the Daycare Center Togepi versus the Pallet Town Dunsparce. So
what stood out to me in this one is Chris has a lot of Kartana answers.
Yeah.
All on one team. He's got Mega Scizor, which pretty much walls Kartana.
Absolutely.
He's got Rotom Heat, which is pretty strong against Kartana as well.
Very well. I mean, it doesn't even really need to run. Like, if it's just a powerful special attacker and is Volt switching, that's going to take big chunks out of Kartana.
But it still comes in the problem of the Kartana Manaphy offensive is extremely deadly. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, if one of them gets the chance to pop off.
Yes. Yeah. So it's still very deadly. And this match, actually, of all the matches to add Rodriguez, this is a great match to do it. It comes up as a fantastic check against Hawlucha. It can help to neutralize Mega Scizor very well with Mummy. It helps stop Rotom. It really, it's powerful. He's got a lot of powerful physical attackers.
So that big physical wall is definitely a huge boon to her team.
Yeah, especially having the fighting immunity in Cofagrigus against Hawlucha.
Because then it's got to use flying.
Wasn't great against strong fighting types. And it can wall that even pretty well too. And
I'm sure it takes +2 Brave Birds very well.
I mean decently. Nothing takes them very well, but
if it's built
so
bulky enough.
she's got the defensive answers that will have to play around his, because he has defensive answers to her very potent defensive threats, but she also has some very good defensive answers, and I think can upset kind of the flow of his attackers. He's got a lot of pivoting in Clefable and Rotom and
even Hydreigon with U-turns.
Right. It can run U-turn, so she'll have to play around that. Luckily, I don't think, just based on his play style, I don't think she's going to have to worry about baton pass sets in this one.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think she's ready for it, but I don't think she needs to worry too much about it. All right, and moving on to our last match, the feature match of the week, the Battle of the Has-Beens. This is our match between the Azalea Town Porygon-Zed and the Saffron City Sneasels, both teams, previous champions. How do you feel about it?
I got nothing to say.
Yeah. You're a one-time champion going up against a two-time champion. This definitely
all I
should
have
be
written on my prep sheet for this is secrets. I have ideas.
Yeah, I definitely don't see you talking too loud about how this match could go.
I feel confident, but I've never felt unconfident about a battle in my life.
I remember, what was it, round 2 of the playoffs last season, I believe it was, where you had to battle through a proxy, and I was there to observe and make sure. Yeah, I had to make sure there was no coaching going on, and your confidence against him did scare me. I was afraid for your Zache. You were very confident bringing him in. Yeah. But no, absolutely. I think this there's many reasons why this is going to be the feature match. First of all, I think you two are both exceptional battlers, and you both have very different teams. So I think it's going to be a very interesting match to see how the Great Wall matches up against a lot of mixed offense and defense.
To stay as neutral as I can, I think we have teams that match up very interestingly against each other. Evans will be interesting, especially because he has a lot of stuff that's been untested so far in our draft league with Aegislash and Grimmsnarl as two of his big hitters. So I'll of course have to come up with how I'm going to counter those if he brings them. If I'm even thinking about it, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it will be. He also has another tech I have to get used to. He's got Arena Trap Doug Trio.
Absolutely. And your team,
something
you have
not a super fan of.
3 things that can avoid it. 2 flying pipes and a levitator.
Yeah, I've got a couple.
So that'll be interesting to see how you deal with that.
I've got a Tapu Bulu as well.
That is true. So he can't do those earthquakes, and if Bulu comes in and gets trapped, it's not really doing anything against him. Sucker Punches, earthquakes, they're really not going to do anything to Bulu. And then you very easily just slap it in the face with a giant grass attack and terrain. So
I'm not. Well, I mean, it's not like he would be trapped in there with me. He can. It would be foolish to leave a Doug Trio against a Bulu. But I'm not going to reveal too much of my hand.
I understand.
Say that I've looked a bit at the matchup. I think there are some very interesting advantages on both of our sides. I think that the person with the most KOs will win, and
astute observation
that's all
there.
I've got to say on that.
No, absolutely. Like I said, that's why it's the featured match. I see this one being a very good match to watch. So once you two get that figured out, we will plan to live stream that one, because it'll be a good match to watch. I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely, you'll be live in front of thousands of fans. Better not mess up. All right, well, thank you for joining me, Zache. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
You've had many wonderful insights, and I expect a great match out of you this week. So
I'm hoping for at least a good one.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for joining me. I'm going to end this call. We'll see how you do.
You around.
Good luck. All right, well, I want to thank Zache for joining me, and I want to thank the rest of you for joining me. This has been another installment of the Pokemon Battle Network. We will see you again next Sunday, same time, 8 o'clock, unless otherwise stated. We will cover that match, cover all the matches. We'll see how it all goes, any roster changes that happen. But otherwise, there will be a stream at some point this week once they decide their battle, showing that one, maybe another one. If we can plan another one, and if scheduling works out, we might stream another battle. But otherwise, that is going to be the end of the stream. We're going to play you out with the theme. We will see you later this week.